Hello and welcome to the DriveLife podcast. Today I'm here with Sean again, and we've got Simon from Mivia. Hello, Simon.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, news at our end first is our app, DriveLife, is now out.
Finally!
Probably minimum 6 months later than it was meant to be out. But there's a man who's joining us here who knows that pain. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, go to the App Store, search DriveLife. The title of the app is DriveLife by carevents.com. And the app is an extension of our carevents.com platform. You can find events, venues, other users, other car owners in that app. But you can also post your own vehicle, manage your own garage, manage modifications, list modifications to your garage, and lots of other things as well. Shop coming soon as well. And the shop actually might be out by the time we release this podcast. But it's basically essentially an app for your petrol-led lifestyle.
Oh, and you can find car events as well.
Yeah, that as well. But maybe one of the most important bits. Rewind. Yeah, you can find car events in that as well if you want to. So yeah, it's an early access app, so we've still got lots to add to it. There are lots of features on carevents.com that are missing from that app currently. But download it, see what you think, be one of our first users on the app, and hopefully we'll keep growing it and growing it. So we became aware of you guys probably similar time when we started development on our app.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of buzz on social media about Mivia and didn't quite know what it was. And then people started to tell us about it. So firstly, what is Mivia?
Well, to be fair, I'm a bit confused with what it is now as well.
It happens very easily. Stuff like that.
Yeah, well, confusing me definitely happens quite easily. Yeah, but so a few years ago, sort of really lucky and got the opportunity to take my own car and do some really cool stuff on the most amazing roads in Europe, right? And look, we've all been lucky enough to do that. And it sort of hit me when I got back. I did a commercial tour before I was aware of you guys, by the way. I would have done your one. But it was quite expensive. And in terms of the value and in terms of the people I was with and in terms of the roads that we drove, it was like, I'm not too sure this is... I wouldn't have, if I could have done it again, I'd have done it in a different way. And but what stayed with me was how amazing it was, just sort of being stood at the top of them mountains and just sort of looking, thinking, wow, yeah, this is epic. I want to do this stuff as much as I can. And it hit me that it's not necessarily accessible for everybody to do that kind of stuff. So where Mivia started was I wanted to sort of build something using my professional experience in tech that gave people the opportunity to go and do cool stuff, made it more accessible, cheaper, and there's a real, look, everybody wants to do that cool stuff. Doesn't matter what they drive, where they're from. So we started off building an app which was about road trip planning and navigation. And obviously what's happened is we've gone on a journey and we're transitioning into the motoring travel lifestyle app, not just for enthusiasts like us that want to go and tear around and take in the views, but families, EV owners, bikers, motorhomes, and we want to be that sort of one-stop automotive shop for anything travel, really. So just inspire people, enable people, and deliver real value along the way.
Absolutely does. From what we've seen so far, it looks really promising. And we know that, we approach this from two angles, as you know. So we've got our, like you say, our personal experiences where that is actually what we want to do.
Yeah.
And, I'm very much looking forward to, I guess, using the app for its navigational route planning abilities for some of our upcoming trips. But also, as a lot of the listeners know, we've also got the SUK side of things, the club element, which right now, and you'll know this better than most, right now we use Google Maps for all of our routes. It's like the best available tool, but it's not the best tool.
Yeah.
Because the best tool doesn't exist yet. And hopefully that's what Mivia will become. I know that there's lots of features that have been discussed, that things like unlimited waypoints and live tracking of other people in your group, so you can see where everyone is. I know they're two of many features that you guys have been looking at. But for us, that would be a godsend, basically, wouldn't it? Like, so I feel, we do a good enough job, as do the other tour companies, getting by with Google, but tiny little things can become such a limiting factor. Things like, the two things for me is, firstly, I don't want to send multiple map route links because I'm limited to 10 waypoints. Massive factor. But also, auto continue at waypoints. That single feature, such a small feature.
Yeah.
If they could add that in, and by the way, Google don't add this because Mivia is going to do it, so we're not bothered anymore. But if we could add that in, that would be game changing, because we're traveling at pace. It's no secret. Everybody knows that. You're leaning over, trying to hit the bloody continue button.
Yeah.
And it becomes a real problem. So I know that Mivia has grown to become more than just about the route element, but for us, that's the bit that gets us. That's the bit that gets us most excited, because it's definitely solving an immediate problem.
Causes so many problems. So many times we've had problems with that. So yeah. It's a big one.
And small things have a big impact. So if just from experience, if you've got a group of 10 to 20 cars and one person doesn't press continue and then Google Maps then starts to send you around in a circle, you can have 10 cars following them because they see somebody taking the wrong turn, and you've lost half the group. And ultimately for us, not with DriveLife, but with SCUK, the car club that we run, we're being paid to provide an experience that is being let down by technology that's outside of our control.
I think, and that's the key, right? I think from a tech perspective, it's 2024. It's, we've got satellite navigation. Yeah. We've got lots of different satellite navigation solutions, but the core offering is, we're going to get you there fast, or we're going to get you there short. Yeah. And bikers are quite well catered for, because bikers have got like their own community, and there's a number of apps that bikers will use that send them on sort of twisty routes and different things. But there's nothing for people like us that are like, well, I've got a couple of hours on a Sunday.
Yeah. I
don't want to go and drive the roads I've driven before. Where's a nice twisty road for me to go and have a look? And there's a review point, and it's a nice day, or whatever. So yeah, the library thing is really, really important. And obviously what we're trying to do is offer it out to the community so that people can upload their favorite routes, their favorite points of interest, so that we can all benefit from everyone's shared knowledge and IP and those little hidden gems that you're never going to know about unless you live around the corner. But from a navigation perspective, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're kind of making it easier. So, TomTom are our navigation and mapping partner. And we've been really, really lucky. They've looked after us incredibly well. They love what we're doing. And they love it because it's easy, right? Because it's like, they don't have to do any, there's a roadworks there, or there's a little bit of traffic there, and someone's just decided that they want to have a flat tire over there. And so you go this way instead. It's just like, well, there's the road.
Yep.
That's what I want to drive on. I'm going to go and drive on it. Yeah. So yeah, when we first pitched it to them, it was a really like, oh, that's really cool. It's completely against what we've been doing for the last 15 years, 20 years in terms of getting people there more efficiently, but it makes sense. It's really cool. So yeah, and when you look up the notification stuff, because I did that tour, and then I started to sort of plan my own trips.
Yeah.
And that's when you really start to understand the limitations of the tech that you've got, because you're going to use one app for navigation, one app for, speed cameras, one app for live location of your friends to see if someone's got out of position.
Yep.
One app for hotel bookings, one app for this. And before you know it, it's, you're all over the place between different screens. And I just thought, there's a way that we can really pick up the best bits from each of those solutions and just deliver them in one pane of glass. And live location is key when you're out there, as you know, because somebody could, they could need a toilet. And it could be like, right, I'm just going to dart down here and go to the toilet. If they've got 4 people behind them that aren't watching the nav, then all 5 of them are going to go, it's just like, and you hear the stories, and by that time, everyone's gone.
Yeah.
Right? Then if you have a problem with auto resume, reroute, sending you back to the start, from a user experience, you're in real trouble. So my thinking was, can we deliver this for end users to go and do their own stuff, regardless of budget, regardless of community, regardless of what they drive, ride, etc. But from a commercial perspective, I thought there's a real opportunity for us to help, guys like you deliver a really nice user experience where, you can potentially manage the event in-app, execute the event in-app, take the barriers away. You don't have to have 3, 4, 5 links for a day. You can have one link, and just, how difficult would it be for us to put some notifications into the map to say, I need the toilet.
Yeah.
Push the button. Everybody in the group gets the notification. Don't follow Simon. He's going to the toilet.
Yeah.
If I'm at the back and you're at the front and I hit the button in-app, I need fuel. Well, you pull into the petrol station. Everybody pulls into the petrol station. Nobody's out of position.
Yeah.
It's simple stuff, but it's specific for our use case. But there are so many people like us that want to go and do this stuff. And yeah, we've had some great feedback. It is a long process building apps.
Yeah.
I know you know.
Excruciating.
And we're doing our best and we're working really hard. But, we've got a lot of support. Generally, the feedback we've got has all been fantastic. And even if it hasn't been, it's useful. It's good. So please keep the feedback coming. And, we just want to make it as good as we can. Because ultimately, we want to inspire and enable as many people as we can to get out there and do the cool stuff that we've been lucky enough to do. Yeah,
absolutely. And like I say, we do personally, we do approach it for 2 angles, and we can see the benefit to both parties. And when you put it very well there in terms of like saying it is simple stuff, but especially if you're a commercial business like STUK who's trying to deliver something, the simple tiny stuff becomes a big problem. Like I can count numerous times where somebody has said, I need to stop for the toilet. Don't worry, I'll catch you up. But actually, 2 hours later, they still haven't caught us up because it's just the way the way it goes when you're driving on the road. But then for us, we're none the wiser until we stop. And so at that point, rightly or wrongly, you've even got a little bit of guilt where you're like, for 2 hours, that person didn't get what they essentially paid us for. And so having all that live data in whatever format it is, whether it's notifications, whether it's tracking people, it would be, it's essential for a business like STUK. We don't have it yet.
Every business should have a toilet button.
Every business should have a toilet button, yeah. I think
it's a great idea.
So it's December 2024 now.
Yep.
Where is Mivia up to now versus where you kind of wanting to see it within like the next year or two? So firstly, how do people get involved? Is it? It's obviously it's live in the app stores. People are using it.
Yep.
Am I right in saying that they can use it? They can like trial it at the moment and give it a go, or how are you currently set up?
Yeah. So I mean, firstly, I'd probably suggest I'm the wrong person to ask in terms of where do you see it, because I know that Dan, who's one of my co-founders, he's the CTO, he's the technical lead. I know that he is going to be wincing because I'm about to say, I think we can do this. And obviously Dan has to go and deliver it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we've done incredibly well to get to where we've got to, because we are building something from scratch, which is tough, right? And even though we've got some stepping stones, we are sort of stripping everything back and we're starting from the very beginning. Where we are right now, we have the iOS app has been in the store since April. And I think we're around about, I want to say about 7,500 downloads on iOS.
Yep.
We went into the Play Store, I think August, because Google had some issues with what we were doing for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know why, but
maybe, I don't know.
For anyone who's in the tech
if somebody
world.
from Google could reach out to me, that'd be fantastic. So that went live in August, and we're about maybe 2,500, 3,000, maybe 3,000 on Android. But that will, I think, sort of ramp up quickly. Although I think we'll probably always be 2 to 1 on the users. Fantastic growth so far. The app is free to use currently, and the app will always be free to use. It will always there will always be a flavor of the app that people can use for free. The key difference between the free app and the paid app, when we turn the subscriptions on, which will be in May, will be that the level of discount and value that you get back from us will be far more significant if you're a paid member.
Yeah.
And I think there are businesses out there, and people can have their own strategies and their own views. You know, sort of freemium versions are sort of watered down, and they sort of sneak a few little features through to you. But you know, you're kind of like, oh well, you know. But what we've decided to do is to effectively, the app is identical, free to paid, but the paid version offers you so much value. I mean, we've just been talking about it there, and it gives you so much value that, you know, I'm bound to say this, of course, but we want people to sort of sit there and go, well, why wouldn't I subscribe to this? Because I'm getting so much value. And the way that we deliver the value is savings, discounts, deals. We are about to start work on our hotels integration, which will take us about 3 months. But that is going to open up 2.5 million hotels around the world that if you're a paid member, you are going to get at cost price. If you are a free member, you can still book those hotels and you can still get fantastic rates. But we will make a commission, obviously, because we have to monetize some of those transactions. But if you're going to spend £500 on 2 nights in a hotel with another online hotel booking platform, or you know, you could get that for £390 if you're a Mivia member. Then that £110, well, that's your yearly subscription is covered and you've saved some money. So why wouldn't you do that? Because we're going to have deals. Well, we've got deals on tires. We've got deals on pre-book parking. Hotels obviously is huge. You know, and there's lots of other stuff in there that's like, you know, and I can't say too much because some deals we're kind of sort of on the cusp of, but we've got a fuel card offering which is up to 4 pence a litre off at the pump. You know, and we've got a car hire deal with Enterprise Mobility. They've been fantastic with us. 10% off car hire globally with Enterprise National and Alamo.
Nice.
So there's some really cool stuff going in there. So it's not just car specific either. So it's exciting. But you know, my vision for it is that we want to be able to work with a number of partners like you guys and help you deliver a fantastic experience for your members and your clients. But ultimately, we want to be the go-to motoring travel app for everyone, not just enthusiasts, but for families, EV owners, bikers, you know, motorhomes, like I've said before, you know. Could we want more people to get out there and do cool stuff?
Yeah, and well, like you said earlier as well, when you book even the simplest of trips and you find that the accounts that are required to book that are spread over 5 websites. So I've got my booking.com and I've got this, that, and the other. And that's not then even factoring in routes at that point. That's just literally making a trip that I want to do happen. So if that can all be brought into one, then all the better. And we certainly are, and we won't be complaining when we can do our routes and sort our hotels via the same platform. That'd be even more valuable to us. So
I think we've talked about this actually. It was an idea that you had. And we're going to implement this because I think it's a fantastic idea for businesses like yours. You know, from an SC UK perspective, having our portal currently allows you to plot routes, but the portal will evolve and will turn into a hub where you can manage events, invite people. You know, you can manage the photos of the events, the hotel bookings, the routes, whatever it may be, and then you can execute it obviously when you're out there. But for you guys and for other people. Sort of doing these trips, it's just so slick to be able to have that one centralized location and potentially, you know, share like a SharePoint type setup where you go in and edit a route and then you say, I'm nipping out now. Can you pick that route up, Sean? And then you log in from your PC and you pick up from where you've left off and then you just tweak the end of the route.
And totally mess it up.
Well, I didn't want to say anything. But,
it's usually the other way around.
Undo. But you came up with the idea of a sort of shared drive type setup. And we're striving for that because I think that's a really nice tool for a business like yours that's got multiple people that have input. You know, you could be on hotels and you could be on routes and somebody else could be on activities and different things. So there's a lot of thought going into what we're doing, and I think it's easy to look at an app, to download an app and go, oh, well, okay, it does this.
Yeah.
But then I think when you sort of take a step back and just go, okay, well, what's involved in all of this? And I think that's why Dan, bless him, has lots of sleepless nights, because I just think, well, just build it.
Yeah.
Surely we can just integrate hotels and just, it's cool. And he's like, it's going to take 3 months. I'm like, no, it'll take a few weeks. That'll be fine. And you know what it's like. So it's a big job, but we are absolutely all over it, and I'm absolutely obsessed with delivering it. And I just want people to be able to use the app. And I'm sure you'd be the same with your app, you guys. You just want people to use the app and just be like, oh, it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about the user experience, because the ethos, really, the moral thing is, if you asked 100 people, would you want to go and drive this pass in Switzerland and see that view? Like 99 of those people are going to go, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But how many of those people actually ever get to do that? And it's because it's too difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that will resonate with people, because there'll probably only be 2 or 3 people out of every 100 that do that. But if we can help another 4, 5, 10 people do that, well, I've won. I've achieved what I set out to. I've made it accessible and easier for someone to go and do that. And when you do that, anybody listening, watching, who's not done that, you can't imagine what it's like, can you, until you're up there. When you're at the top of like the Furka Pass or somewhere, or the Grossglockner or something, you're just like...
Epic roads. They're really good.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, life now is, people I think are more aware about experiences, I think now more than ever, and you can have cool stuff, right? But, the memories that you make when you're on those trips, even if it's you on your own or with a friend or with your partner, or if you're with all your mates, it's really cool, isn't it? You know what I mean? And you don't have to be into cars either to appreciate that stuff.
No, you don't. And for relatively speaking, how close these places are to the UK, and people don't do it. I mean, we have the same conversation with the NC 500 in Scotland.
Yeah.
Like the first time I did the NC 500, I was blown away that there were still places in the UK that were that remote. I didn't actually realise there were.
Yeah.
Like, how can I drive for half an hour and not see another car? It might be not the same now because the NC 500 is getting a little bit popular, but there are other roads in the UK.
Yeah.
Never mind Europe, that are like that, and it's it's 3 hours from my house to get to the start point to do it. And had I not been part of this world, with SC UK and DriveLife and various other bits, there's probably a chance that I still wouldn't have done it now. And so to have an accessible app that really educates me as much as anything, as to saying, that's how good that is, and this is how easy it is just to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, on another note, I'm part of Facebook groups that are like route planning advice groups, and you see people join them. I think actually we're part of the same group because I've seen you comment on it before. But you see people request a route from A to B. Often it's somewhere from the UK over to Switzerland or France, and you'll have 100 people give 100 different route suggestions, which is great because there's lots of people giving suggestions. But at the same time, us being slightly more in the know, you look going through it saying like, no, that's a bad route and that's a bad route. Don't do that one. And so like, obviously your app, like it almost like it legitimizes what's available, because I know that I think you already have it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you're probably going to have it if you don't. Is like rating that route. Yeah, I think exactly. You've already got it, haven't you? Exactly. So at least like, right, I want to go, like from the UK to Switzerland via a scenic route almost all the way. Oh, by the way, you can do the 5-star one. Like, why wouldn't you?
And I think that's it. We've got a search box in the routes at the moment are all just sort of not jumbled, but they're all just sort of crammed into one area. And one of the projects for us early in the new year is to refine how we sort those routes and present those routes, because it can be quite messy. That's just honest feedback from me, who's the sort of product owner, really. But we want to be able to give people that information, right? And because people are going to make their own mind up, right? But if I search Black Forest in the app, it's going to present me 5, 10, 20, 30 different versions of a Black Forest run. Yeah. Now, we've done that road, and we know that if you join that road at Baden-Baden and you really follow the B500, right, you're going to pass through some really cool places where there's some really cool things to do. Like the stop at Mummelsee at the top there is brilliant. But I've done that 3 or 4 times and never known about Schaffhausen, where the Rhine Falls is. And there was a guy, I was in a WhatsApp group earlier this year, and a guy took a picture of himself about the Rhine Falls. It's brilliant. I never knew about it. I've driven past it loads, didn't have a clue. And without him posting that photo, I would have never have known. And I took Nicola, and we had the most amazing couple of hours, just sort of sat there having a coffee, just, and she tried to talk me into going on one of those boats that sort of gets really, really close to it and then turns around. But I was like, no, you're all right. I stay on land. Yeah, I'm a land creature. But that's the thing, the first time I did the Grossglockner, I'd driven 2,000 miles across Europe, or 1,800 miles, whatever it is. And I missed the viewpoint. I missed the car park because I didn't know it was there. And I'd taken 10 cars, me and my mates, 20 people, and we're all just nailing it past the end of this road. Yeah. And it's like half a mile down there. You've got this amazing viewpoint, this big car park here where everyone does donuts and well, you're not allowed to do that anymore. But we were so close, but we missed it. Yeah. Because we didn't know. And I think rating, reviewing, adding pictures, giving people, and this is why it's a community project as well, right? Because we're all, we love this stuff. And because we love it, we want to share. Yeah. Yeah. And those Facebook groups, I know the one that you're talking about. And there's some really, really nice people in those groups. Yes. Yeah. And they're so knowledgeable. And there's a guy who comments a lot on some of the stuff. And I won't say his name, but he's so knowledgeable. And he always recommends some really cool stuff. He's incredibly well traveled, right? And that is gold. He's gone and done so much cool stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And his advice is on point. And you're just like, well, can I give him a platform to be able to go and put that stuff out there? Yeah. Because people need to know about that stuff. Yeah. And the ratings and the reviews and stuff are really important, because equally there is a lot of crap, isn't it? People will be like, oh, well, I want to go down here and just go on the motorway. Yeah. And you're like, no, come on, you're missing the point, So it's got to be eject. Yeah. It's got to be moderated. But yeah, it's the community element is really big for us. Yeah. No, it's really important. I'm just thinking back to our NC500, so going a little bit off topic, but on day one, we when we were first planning it, we wanted to extend the route by, I think, roughly about half an hour, 45 minutes, just to make sure people had a solid day of driving. And you, by chance, found that loop round the lake. You could cross over a bridge that would take you maybe 1 minute, or you could go right and do a loop around the lake, and you'd never driven it until you're actually there. Yeah. And arguably, that's one of the best parts of our NC500 tour that we've done to date. And that's day one, and it's this tiny little turn off that you would have missed. It took a bit. It was research to find it. Obviously, looking for what other people's, giving feedback and things on there. But you're going out to Google, and you coming, got to filter through all that kind of randomness and stuff that's not probably sometimes not even to do with car routes or anything, So having all that, raw information in one place is very valuable. And this is the point, right? You get however many pages you get into that rubbish, and you're like, forget that. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And that's why because that's why nobody. If you go to that 100 people analogy again, it's like, maybe 10 people will try, and they'll go, all right, okay, well, where should I go? Oh, well, this is a nice pass. I've heard this is a nice pass. And then they go to a Facebook group, and then they get some more inspiration, and they try and build a route. But then the tools aren't quite there for them to build the route, and then they try and book a hotel. And it's just like, sod it. It's too much hassle. I'll do it next year. Yeah. And they're never going to do it, are they? Never. And the other option is they come and they engage with some fantastic people like you, and you go and do that for them, and you take them on that journey and give them that experience. You guys know yourself. Your experiences are for everyone, but invariably you get a sort of focus group of people who are going to be, interested in that sort of stuff, right? But I'm looking at my oldest son now, who's 18 tomorrow, and thinking he's just got a motorbike, he's riding around, he's got no waterproof gear, so he's having a great time at the moment. But But at some point, he's going to pass his test and he's going to drive a car. Now, what's to stop him and a couple of his mates going, well, let's get on the Eurotunnel and let's go somewhere in the summer. Yeah. And the app for me is as much about gifting those experiences to everyone from every walk of life, you know. But yeah, it's difficult to find the information, and it shouldn't be. Yeah, and I think the idea is that if we become that sort of centralized hub for it all, and people feed into it, because we're not going to be able to do this unless people buy into what we're doing and upload their routes and upload their points of interest. Big one for me is taking pictures of our cars for socials. I've got an Instagram account just for my car. And I take photos of my car wherever I go, right?
That's not unusual.
No, exactly. It's cool. It's really cool. Some people aren't going to get that, but we get it because it's cool. And at some point in the future, I'm going to look back and go, oh, I've been to all these really cool places and look at this car, this car, this car. But you see some people who've put photos on the social media and like, I wonder where that place is. I'd really like to go and take a photo there.
Yeah.
And points of interest become just as important for us as routes. But then how do you navigate best from one place to another? Yeah, and we want to deliver that entire solution for people. Just make it as easy as we can.
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity in its own right, isn't it? The photography media side of things. And I know that we stumble across good photo spots that are shared by others on social media, but it's exactly that point. And there's even that little place in Leeds, the archway with the lights inside it, you know, and I've got no clue where it is. You've been there, I've never been.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure we've got access to it anymore. But
yeah, it's probably shut down now.
Yeah,
but it's an amazing photo spot that not many people know about, and even things like that would be great to find.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mivia app is available in both the app stores, as Simon said. Go and download it, give it a go, and see how it develops throughout 2025 as well. And we all look forward to driving some amazing roads that the app suggests to us. And then we will, as part of the DriveLife app that we're developing, we are currently working with Mivia to work a two-way integration to offer and share elements and data and features that we've got. So, for example, the Mivia app will have a section for events that will be powered by us, and equally we'll have elements in our app that will be powered by Mivia. So download both apps and see how they both develop, and hopefully we'll have a good working partnership where we can provide a couple of apps that solve every automotive problem you've ever had.
Definitely. I think they're in safe hands.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.
You are Mr. Mivia, but you're also a petrol head.
Ooh, yes.
So what was your first car?
What was my first car?
Yeah.
My first car was a Mark II Ford Escort, and it was two-tone.
Mm-hmm.
It was beige at the top, and it was brown at the bottom, and it had a chrome strip.
Beige and brown.
And it had a brown corduroy interior, which I've just seen Chris Harris has spent lots of money on having a corduroy interior in his M5 estate. I know you've seen that, but his E61. Whereas I had it in that Escort. And
so the chrome was the line down the middle, and
it was a strip
straight down the middle, and then the top half of the car was a different colour to the bottom.
Beige,
yeah,
brown.
And was that how it came out the factory, or did you do it? Or did
it came out the factory a long time before I was born, I would suggest, but it was a friend of my dad's.
Yeah.
He was a little bit dodgy. It was always up to no good.
So it was two cars, was it?
It may have been. It may have been. That's why they cut him short. Yeah. But I'll never forget. It was £100, and I was 16, and I had a motorbike. I was whizzing around on my motorbike because I worked very early, and I used to. My granddad had quite a long driveway, and I used to start it and I used to drive it up the driveway, and I used to reverse it back down the driveway. Yeah.
Yep.
And one day I tried to reverse it and see how close I could get to the garage doors, because I thought, oh, you know, parking and stuff, you know, it's another skill set that I'm going to hone at 16 years old, right? So I did that, and then forgot that I'd left it in gear. And then when I started it again, it jumped backwards. It hit the garage doors, popped them in, and they were wooden garage doors with one of these sort of loop sort of things in, and it came off the screws and landed on my granddad's bonnet on his Astra, his brand new Astra. Thankfully, my granddad was one of the calmest and loveliest people that you'd ever meet. And he was like, oh, you know, it is what it is. It's one of them. But I was like, oh my God, I was mortified.
I think we've all had in our first few cars, we've all had moments like that. I think it's almost like a rite of passage to make sort of mistake at least once.
I didn't actually take that car on. Well, I did take that car on the road illegally, but I didn't actually drive that car legally on the road. I was, you know, what? This is the type of thing you couldn't get away with now. I'm not too sure. I might get a phone call from the police after this. You don't know, but
offences more than 20 years ago don't count. So
that's perfect. Then I'm all right. Let's go. So where I lived, there's like a little cut through into like another little village, and me and a friend, we used to sort of sneak out, and we'd sort of drive through in this loop around. But obviously, because the car hadn't been run properly, you know, if it went dead, you had to bump it. So I'd stalled it, and we had to bump it on this road. I'm not going to name the place. But me and my friend used to go out, and we were doing the same loop, but effectively we were doing laps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got rid of that car before I passed my test. My granddad used to work at Vauxhalls. He was sort of anyone who's grown up from where I've grown up, you know, the same geography. Most people worked at Vauxhalls in the factory in Ellesmere Port. My granddad worked there for years and years, so he had this discount. And I was one of these idiots that got a brand new car with 2 years free insurance that ruined it for everybody else by crashing. So yeah, I got a W Reg blue Corsa, Arden blue. Do you remember them? That colour?
I think
it's a 1.2 16 valve Corsa, W447 PDM.
Hang on, this was your first proper car?
My first proper car that I drove on the road.
Right, okay. So it's a 1.2 litre?
1.2, 16 valve.
16 valve.
64 brake horsepower or whatever it was.
17?
It was 17. Yeah. Passed my test. It was 17 in November. Passed my test in the May. 3 minors. Obviously, I'd done about 2,500 miles on the road illegally before I passed my test, so I was fairly accomplished. But you couldn't do that now.
No.
You couldn't do that now. Of course, you couldn't do it then, but obviously with ANPR and different things now, it was. But yeah, it was a good little car whilst it lasted.
Which was how long?
Sadly, no longer with us. A year.
Really?
A year before it was a total loss.
Yeah, I think we've also all been there at some point in our life, as many people know. I have at least once, I think. I think yours was on the track, wasn't it? I don't think it was. Was it a total loss, your Lotus?
No.
It just took a bit of a
day.
Loss of the day.
A lot of pride.
Took a bit of a way.
Loss of ego. Ego got dented.
Ego permanently damaged.
Yeah.
Basically. in fact, my name's on blacklist for most tracks in the UK, I think, since then. But anyway.
So then from there, before we talk about your most recent car history, like cars you've owned over the last few years, were there any standout cars that you've had over the years prior to them?
Yeah, so I sort of fell into a decent line of work at sort of 16, 17, because I worked from a younger age. I was in the butchers at sort of 11, 12, scrubbing the block on a Saturday so that I could buy my Adidas Galaxy trainers out of the catalogue, from my mum, £2 a week.
Weekly favourite.
Yeah, they were great, yeah. So I fell into a decent line of work because I sort of got the whole work ethic thing.
Yeah.
And when I was 20, I think I was 20, I bought a Honda Civic Type R.
Nice.
Which was one of the original, the very first ones. In fact, it was one of the first ones in Chester. RY02 OPX, red one. And before that, I'd had a couple of Nissan Almera GTIs, sort of bread van type cars, which were fantastic. I loved them. But yeah, the Civic Type R was the first car that I got that was like this is serious. This is a really serious car, you know, and it used to turn in so quick. And it was brilliant. And
I still have the gear stick in the
that was the first one that had the gear lever
in the dashboard. Yeah.
And 6 gears. And it turned in so fast. It was so light. It was pretty. It was quick. It was 200 brake, which for them was huge. It was huge power. And I remember I took it to Birkenhead where they had Pico exhausts. I think the guy's name was Jerry, I think. And they wanted to design an exhaust. They used my car as a donor car to be able to design the exhaust. And it was like a 5x4 inch oval thing. It was straight through, no boxes. And I just tank it everywhere. And it was amazing. That's a real standout for me until that one. I don't think that one lasted either. I think that was an engine. That was a terminal engine issue.
So that being a black one?
Red one.
Red one.
There
was only
red, black, silver.
That's right. Yeah. 3 colours. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it an EP3? I think I should know that. I feel as though I should know that.
I think it is, but I don't want to comment through getting people telling me that I'm wrong.
I don't mind being wrong. I think it's an EP3.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
They're awesome cars. Cars. And I think everyone also remembers the first time they get into a car where you think, this is a serious car when it comes to performance. And realistically speaking, it wasn't versus the cars that we're all driving now. But at the time, to get the first car that had been set up for performance rather than daily use. Yeah. I remember, and it's a modest car, but the first performance car that I got into was my Audi S3. Yeah. And it was the 8V one, so they're still running similar engines now. The 2-litre turbocharged thing, and I just couldn't believe it. Honestly, just could not believe it. The second night I had it, I pulled over to drop a friend off, their house at the side of the road, and then I saw that the lights were about to change to green, and my friend just said go, and I went, and I was in front of all the traffic. Just as the lights changed, I got in front of the queue, and I was I could not believe that I had a car that was capable of doing that. I think we all remember it very, very vividly. It's a really special moment as a petrol head to get into this thing that you've never thought you could acquire. It doesn't matter if it's expensive or not. You just never thought you'd acquire such a car after having your first cars and your 1.2s, 1.6s.
Yeah, that's
right.
And
it's a really, really special moment.
It's interesting what you say because 200 brake or 197 brake horsepower, whatever it was, that Civic, it's at the time it was this is serious, Subarus and Evos and stuff were sort of 200, 220, they were proper, weren't they, but, and now my Transporter has more power than that Civic. Than that Civic. So it's mad how far things have come when you look back now. I just wonder where is it going to be in another 15 years, 20 years? It makes you think, doesn't it? With some of the stuff that you see coming out now.
Quieter, I think.
I'd go with that.
But that for me is sad in itself. 2 things on that. Firstly, so when I grew up, it was definitely the era of the hot hatch, as probably for all 3 of us. Yeah. And at the car that I was aspiring to, the car that was the car when I was probably 17, 18, was I think it was, I'm going to say Mark II, I'm probably getting it wrong, but was the Focus RS. Yeah. When they released it about 2010 in that lime green. And then they did and then Ford York got in one RS 500, which was the matte black, only 500 ever made car. And we don't really have that now. Unfortunately, I think fast Fords and fast Vauxhalls have kind of lost a bit of their clout to the other brands. But now where we're going, we're currently in the process of taking another leap whereby, it's sad. Other people probably have different opinions, but it's sad for me in that you get in your average electric car that's not exciting whatsoever, but it will absolutely destroy you at a set of traffic lights. Oh yeah. You stand no chance. Get any Tesla versus the Mustang doesn't have the best 0 to 60 time of any performance car. But even yours, for your McLaren or your any of the cars that you've owned as well, or most of them, I know a few of them were tuned a little bit. We'll talk about that in a minute. But a Tesla Model 3 performance, you do not stand a chance against beating. And in one sense, that's great. Performance is accessible to most, but at the same time, it's sort of that constant jump, isn't it? And where will it go? And I don't think it can go much further, really, because of tyre technology.
Where
and
does it stop?
else.
Yeah, that's the point. And think about road surfaces then. And we talk about this all the time. It's just like, you know, if you have it on track, you know what your traction's like on track. You know, driving here today, you know, the conditions of the camber of the roads, the conditions of the roads, you know, it's just like, it has to stop from a safety perspective, doesn't it? Because
absolutely.
You can just have somebody normal, I'll say normal loosely, but I think everyone knows what I mean in terms of maybe not an enthusiast, maybe someone that doesn't drive on track or drive quickly, that just puts their foot down in something that's got 700 brake horsepower. They, you know, if you're hitting a bump or you're hitting a pothole or you're swerving to get out of the way of a grid or something, it's like, this is serious stuff going wrong now, isn't there? You know.
Yeah, that's the level of performance isn't for everyone. And if you've got your standard daily car can do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, it's potentially sometimes in the wrong hands. But anyway, we'll see how it all develops. It'll be interesting. Hopefully it doesn't all develop towards autonomous, but you never know.
I think the other thing to be mindful of is that I proved that 64 brake horsepower was in the wrong hands was dangerous as well when I was 17.
Allegedly.
Apparently so, yeah.
So I guess on the plus side, if Mivia can do a deal with Tesla to have it built into the screen, then and the cars are autonomous, you could be a passenger for an entire Switzerland road trip. You can just press take me.
Listen, that sounds like a fantastic collaboration.
I want 10%.
And if Elon is watching, I'm open to offers, Elon.
TeslaTours.com. Sorry, I need to register that one.
So fast forward to current or recent car ownership. I know there's a few that you've owned recently that you don't anymore, but what has been in your garage recently?
So I actually had a break. So I had children, which a lot of people will understand is financially challenging for a period. I had some children, fantastic children, and I got to maybe mid-30s. So from early 20s to maybe mid-30s, I had a period where I just survived. Yeah. And I commuted and got about and stuff. But obviously the passion for me was always there. Yeah. I'm a petrolhead, right? So I remember I bought a C63, one of the estates, the original, you know, the 6.2, 6.3 V8 one. And that was my first sort of step back into performance.
It's a serious car as well.
Serious car.
Yeah.
And theatre. You know, everything about it. It was a proper. And I'd love another one. I'd have another one without any shadow of a doubt. Anyway, I ran that for a little bit, and then I got an F80 M3, which was a big step for me because that was like the most expensive car I'd ever bought at that point.
Yeah,
and I think it was about 40 grand. It was a couple of years old maybe.
Yeah.
But then I started getting back into the modification sort of scene, and you know, obviously at that point everything's turbocharged. You know. It's not just, you know, you go back to Astra GSIs, it's rebuilding engines, cams, all sorts of different stuff to get 40 brake.
Yeah.
You know, a tune, you know, an exhaust on an F80 and you can get like 150 brake horsepower, you know what I mean? It's transformational. And I remember the first time I did it with a little box that I plugged into my own laptop. It was like an off-the-shelf map. But that F80 ended up with hybrid turbos on it and it had methanol, and I took it to Belgium to pure turbos, and it was about 750 brake horsepower. And I took it on a couple of the runway events and stuff and tried to crack 200 mile an hour with it. And it was a fantastic bit of kit.
Yeah.
But importantly, it got me into this sort of car community again, because go back to when I was sort of 19, 18, 20, whatever, we didn't have social media. So if there was a car meet, it was like, oh, there might be a car meet on in Stoke tonight. Let's just all drive down there. And there's no one there. You know, and it was a real, you know, and you'd have like a collection of people that park in the underground car parks and stuff. But now, obviously, because of social media and because of technology, we know where everything's happening. You know, we know how to get there. And obviously, because of you guys, people like you guys are putting real slick tech together to say, look, you know, here's all of the events that you can go.
Yeah.
You can be really selective with where you go and what you do. So that F80 was another really big car for me for that reason. It got me back into the car scene. And around 2020, when we had the COVID stuff, I'd done all right. And the COVID stuff really for me was like, and probably the same for a lot of people, I thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. It was one of them where it's just like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I saw a McLaren 570S come up for sale not too far from me. It was in Mantis Green. And it was on for £84,000, and it would have been a £200,000 car. It was 3 years old, 21,000 miles or something on it. Mantis Green.
It's a good price.
Yeah, well, this is 2020, right? And there's still the same money now.
Yeah.
And I didn't read any reviews, obviously, which is why I bought it. And I went to test drive it. He had a V10 R8 as well. You won't like this, but he had a V10 R8, and they were parked next to each other. And it was a black V10 R8, and it was the Mantis Green 570S. And I didn't even see the Audi. Yeah. Because obviously the green just jumps out at you and stuff. And it's like, and the doors come up, and it was like, oh, wow. And I think the deal on it at the time, because the PCP rates, the finance rates were really, really strong. It was like 6%, 5.9%. So I think it was like I put 10 grand down, and it was like under £1,000 a month or something. And at the time I had the budget, I had the money. I thought, right, I can spend this on myself.
Yeah.
Don't drink, don't smoke, don't really do too much. Yeah. But this is my thing. I'm back into that car world. This is it. I'm going to go for it. Sod it. I'm going to go for it. You never know what's around the corner. The COVID stuff, playing games. And I bought it. And it was probably the single best thing I did. It's probably one of the single best things I've ever done in my life for myself. Because at that point, I was like, right, I can't just drive this to Costa. I'm not just going to drive it around Chester and sort of, show off. Yeah. Because I'm not that guy. I want to go and kick its head in the mountains. I've grown up watching Top Gear. All of the best episodes of Top Gear that I remember are ones where they've been to amazing places.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As much as we love watching Top Gear because they're kicking it around in amazing cars and there's lots of theatre and there's lots of fun and they're great guys and they're really funny, right? We watch it because when it pans out to that cinematic shot where they're at the top of a mountain or at the bottom of a valley, or when they did the transfer garrison and they were at the bottom of the dam, that's the bit you remember, right? And that sort of really struck me, and I thought, I'm going to go and do cool stuff with this. And then that's when I got into trying to find someone to go and do a driving tour. And I found it very difficult to find options at the time that were relevant and right for me to go and do a European driving tour. I didn't know where to start. I didn't, were my friends going to do it with me? What roads did I want to go on? Where did I want to stay? And there's a fear element as well. There's a fear factor because you're like, well, I've never done this before. Yeah. So I lined up with a tour company and I went on one of their tours. And from there, we know the rest in terms of the journey. In terms of the cars since then.
So how many miles did you do in there? McLaren, I'm interested.
All in.
Yeah.
You'll love this. I did about 32,000 miles in it in 3 years.
You sold it with 50,000 miles on it?
54,000 miles on it.
That must be one of the highest mileage 570Ss and around at the time as well.
So Manchester used to look after it. Very, very lucky that Sam, who was at Manchester at the time, great guy, and Andy, who was the head technician at Manchester, another great guy. I used to have it in 3 or 4 times a year. So I'd have it in before I went away. I'd have it in after I came back. I'd have it in for its service. And if they had an open day, I'd have it in and Andy would get it on the ramp.
Yeah.
So, Andy's feedback was it's one of the best ones that we see because it's used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, I say this in the owners groups, anybody thinking about buying a McLaren, don't be afraid of buying one with miles on, because if it's been serviced properly, they love being used.
So
these cars love being used. And it's the same with the Porsche now. It's like there's so many cars out there with like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles on that are 4 or 5 years old, and there's bits that are bound to have perished because it's been sat in a garage because someone's just like, oh yeah, I've got this car. Look, I've got this car. It's amazing. It's like, well, what do you do with it? Well, nothing much really. Yeah. Oh, okay, sound.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm a big believer in, you buy it to drive it, right? And as a result, I put 54,000 miles. I think I don't know when I Partexed it, and I miss it. It's a fantastic car. I've done so many cool things in that car. Thankfully, I've got lots of pictures and lots of memories, but it was brilliant. It never really missed the beat for me. It had a bit of corrosion, but McLaren were fantastic. The warranty was sorting me out. It was, I think it's changed that recently. So Don't hold me to that, but great car. And then, yeah, like I say, that sort of got me going a little bit. And I had a Turbo S convertible for a little while, which was a Gen 1. And I sent that to a company in Milton Keynes called ES Motor to do some tuning on that. I had hybrid turbos on it as well.
I've been on a tour with an ES Motors Turbo S, and they are ferocious cars. Absolutely
mind blowing. But interestingly, I'll tell you a little story in a minute, and I think that this will shock you. But in fact, it'd be really good for you, this story, because I know what you're thinking about buying. But that Turbo S was 900 plus horsepower, and it would run nines at pod, back to back to back to back. And it was dead funny because I'd pull up at the line at pod, and people would be like, "Who's this?" And this Boxster, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was a full cab, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd just be off doing wheelies down the runway almost, you know what I mean? 9.8, 9.7, 9.9. But yeah, interestingly, I've just got rid of a G80 M3. We were talking about this last week. And that G80 has been tuned. It was tuned by Tom Wrigley, and it was running about 730 horsepower. And you know the numbers that G80 will put down at pod, and on our, you know, on the runway event that I attended with you guys earlier this year, your runway event, very, very similar numbers from a 4-door saloon car. And I think the way in recent times, it's probably the best car I've had, that G80. And when they first got released, I was really against them because I was such pro F80.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
But I can tell you now, that's probably the best all-round car I've had, probably ever, in terms of performance, comfort, tech. You know, it feels like a 4-door 911. Great bit of kit.
Yeah, well, I can say that it was our conversation that got me really thinking about them. And now, a week later, Sean and Josh and everyone else here are absolutely sick about me talking about the G80. So
Genuine.
I will watch this space because it may happen quite soon. I'm quite interested.
Do it.
I am. But then the current car you're running, am I right in thinking we're over to Porsche again?
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest, the McLaren is a supercar. And I might upset some people when I say that Porsches aren't supercars. I mean, you've got the 918, obviously, but, you know, Turbo S's. And
I think you'd upset quite a lot of people, actually.
Sorry, I'm a Porsche owner. I can get away with it, right? So I've got a GT3 RS, a Gen 1, 991 on a 16 plate. And it, like the McLaren was a supercar. You know, you'd drive it and people, it wouldn't matter. Children, old people, you know, everyone would look and be like, wow. The Porsche, you drive it and it's men, generally, our age, that go, whoa. You know, and they're like...
Just other petrol heads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they know what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, I say this to people all the time, if you want people to look at you, buy a McLaren or a Lamborghini.
No, you said kids and old people.
If you want kids and old people to look at you. No, if you want people to look at you, you know, you buy something like that, shouting, it's loud, you know. But if you want a proper car, you buy a Porsche. And the GT3 RS for me is when you get it on the track and when you get it on the smooth tarmac, you know, you are locked in. You know, it is a proper car. And mine's a Gen 1, right? And I think the Gen 2 is a little bit better. It's got a tighter front end. It's got a little bit more power, I think. And the this 992, I mean, wow. I mean, that's got to be up there with one of the...
So your confidence in the GT3 is higher than when you was in the 570S?
The 570, I tuned the 570 a little bit, and it was running about 650 horsepower, and it was a great experience behind the wheel because it was loud as well. And obviously, the criticism of a lot of these cars is they're quite quiet. But I had a titanium race exhaust on it, so it was loud. You could hear the turbo spool, and the gear changes are fantastic. That McLaren 570 is a fantastic car, you know, to live with. You know, I mean, I'm quite a big guy. You know, you can live with it. You can get in and out of it. It's fine. It's decent enough storage. You're behind the seats as well as in the front. And my general experience is it was reliable. It was a great car. It's so fast, so capable. And I think from my experience, that's what McLaren is about. Really, really fast and dynamic cars. It's a race car, isn't it? Yeah. The Lamborghinis are a bit more shouty, a bit loud. And Ferraris are class, and they just ooze class, don't they? But they have the performance as well on tap. I love the McLaren. I was faster than McLaren, but the Porsche it's different. You know what I mean? It's not as quick in a straight line. It's nowhere near as quick in a straight line. And unless you're driving it properly, you can get left behind by somebody in a 570 or something because of the turbo. And you've got to really drive those Porsches. It's like the Civic, though. I mean, the Civic Type R. Anyone who's got experience of driving an old Civic Type R will tell you the same thing. You've got to keep it in that area. You've got to keep it in the VTEC, haven't you? You know what I mean? You've got to drive them. Yeah. And the Porsche is the same. But when you're on it in that car, it's such an amazing experience. So connected. So yeah, for me, Porsche for the win.
One day, GT3 RS. I think I agree. One day.
It's the one. It's got to be the one.
2 more questions, probably the most challenging of the podcast.
I think I know what one is. Yeah, go on.
The first one's partially related to Mivia.
Okay.
So you've done a lot of road trips, especially over in Europe in your GT3 and other cars.
Yeah.
If you had to tell somebody they've got to go and do one road out of all of that, do you think you could name it? What that road would be?
I'm going to answer very, very quickly and say yes, the Grossglockner.
Yeah. I knew that was going to be the answer.
Yeah.
And that hurts after our talk this year. But carry on.
Yeah. Listen,
it's the road you could have gone on.
Yeah. Here's what you could have won.
The Suston Pass is frightening. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of my favourite in Switzerland, I would say.
The Furka Pass is a fantastic experience for obvious reasons. The Grimsel Pass is underrated. The Gotthard's Pass I love. And obviously if you base yourself in Andermatt, you've got 2 or 3 that you can get to. You can do that. We've got a loop, anti-clockwise and clockwise loops from Andermatt. It takes about an hour to do both. Just you've got to do it right.
Yeah.
The Great St Bernard Pass we did earlier this year, which I thought was the start of it was a bit bumpy, but when you got into it, it was fantastic. I actually did the Col de Nivelet earlier this year as well, which was slow. It's almost a bit Stelvio-ish in terms of the pace. But the views at the top were the most breathtaking views I've ever seen. The top of the Col de Nivelet. I think that's the one where they did the Italian job.
Okay.
But in terms of the balance between smooth tarmac, visibility, fast corners, slow corners, amazing views, the Grossglockner is the one. I'm sorry, lads.
No, it's all right.
It's
just
one.
an excuse for us to go back.
Yeah,
using the Mivia app.
In my opinion, it's the one. And look, I've been super lucky. I've driven some amazing roads. The Maloja and the Bernina passes I've drove earlier this year. I've done the Route Napoleon a few times, and there's some really nice roads in that Route Napoleon around there. And but there's still so many that I've got to do.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting because there's still so many places that I've got to go to. But yeah, Grossglockner.
Well, when we do this podcast again in a few years with Mivia on, and Mivia will be thriving with more routes in your app than you know what to do with, then we can probably ask the question again and we might get a different answer.
Well,
you never know.
I'll look forward to it. Yeah.
So final question.
Yep.
And for the listener, I put Simon on the spot about 5 minutes before we started the podcast with this one. Maybe that was a bit unfair of me. But we always ask our guests Dream 3 Car Garage.
Yep.
That can be in whatever format you like. So it might be that you want in like 3 supercars, or it might be that you're doing it based on what 3 cars would be perfect for every element of my life. But do you have an idea what your Dream 3 Car Garage would be?
I've been wrestling with this, haven't I? I've been wrestling with this because I'm the type of person that would love to just have a 1-seat car, because then I have an excuse to tell people that I can't take them with me so that I can just be on my own. Because you know what, it's good to just go out on your own, isn't it? And, have a blast. But I also would love a massive RV or Winnebago, because I'd love to be able to just go off grid.
Yeah.
But I think if we're realistic and we give people the answers that they want, I think if I could have any 3 cars right now and have an explanation behind why I would have them, I'd go with a Urus as a daily, a Performante, nice spec.
Yeah.
Great interior. It's a Lamborghini. Sounds amazing. Performance is amazing. But you can get it covered in mud and you kind of not bothered. You can jet wash it off, and
Yeah.
It's an SUV. So I think that would be the daily. I would have a 992 GT3 RS for the track and for fast stuff and really getting my kicks.
Yep.
I'm going to surprise myself here. It's a toss-up between an 812 GTS or an Aventador SVJ. And for just purely for the noise and the theatre, I'd have an SVJ. And that would be the shouty, sort of fancy, loud, screamy, because if you get a decent exhaust on one of them SVJs, they howl, don't they?
There's nothing much better than.
What's also quite cool is that you could get a trailer for the Urus and you could pull the SVJ.
Do you know Jordan? We all know Jordan. Jordan, friend of ours, has he's got his Mustang, hasn't he? His Shelby, and he's got the F-150, which is in the same paint now. And it's like he tows the Mustang with the truck, and they're the same color, and it's cool, right? It's cool until you pass someone who's towing an SVJ in a Urus. Because that really is cool. That's when you know you've.
Do you know that Lamborghini's now brought out a yacht?
Oh, remember, I'm a land animal. Remember, we've said this before. They can keep the yachts.
You need to check it out. Honestly,
they can keep the yachts.
Watch this space, Jordan. When Mivia sells, there'll be a Urus with a SVJ on the back driving around your estate.
On a port. Yeah. On a port. That's as close as I get to a yacht. If it was tied to the land, I'd take that,
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Really good.
Listeners, go to the App Store, download Mivia, download DriveLife, and watch this space as the Mivia app develops. And I think you're in for quite a treat over the next few years as it becomes the go-to app for driving tours, routes, and everything else automotive in between. So catch you on the next one.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.